Good afternoon, everyone. Matt over at SFREP. I'm glad you could join me today as we are going to do not a deep dive. We're going to do a getting started with Appraise-It Pro. So this webinar is going to be for those of you who are moving over from Appraise-It Classic, and it's also going to be for those of you who are moving over from another software vendor like ACI, Bradford, a la mode. In getting to know Appraise-It Pro and how it works. My name is Matt Johnson. I'm the Communications Director over at SFREP here in Charlotte. Glad that you could join me on a Friday afternoon. I was asking in the chat where everybody is tuning in from. And I do want you to use that chat because that's how you can actually ask questions during the webinar. For most of you, it's going to be over here on the right-hand side of the screen. If you are watching this on a desktop or a laptop device, if you're on a mobile device, it's going to be down below. Definitely encourage you to go ahead and ask questions as you have them. Also, on the toolbar, when you mouse over, this is on the desktop and the laptop version of YouTube. When you mouse over the video, you'll have a couple of options, one of which is to go full screen, which will allow you to see things a lot better, but you're going to lose the chat, so just keep that in mind. The other one is to go into theater mode, which is going to expand the video out so that it's much easier for you to be able to see. And then the chat will go down towards the bottom. Already have somebody's in Conyers, Georgia, which I believe is in the Atlanta area. Of course, most of Georgia is technically the Atlanta area, so... but thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started. So as you can see here, I have both Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro on the same computer. Now, for those of you moving over from another software package, this isn't going to really mean much to you, but Appraise-It Classic, which we call Appraise-It Classic or just Appraise-It, is our older software that we've had for the better part of a decade. Well, longer, but we updated it about 10 years ago, rewrote it. But in 2019, we rewrote our software from the ground up, not using any of the old code, all brand new code in the Microsoft development environment, and that is Appraise-It Pro. And that allowed us to do the UAD 3.6 interface in our existing software. So that's what we're going to be going over today. Now, for those of you who are moving over from Appraise-It Classic, I do want to point out, you can have Appraise-It Pro and Appraise-It Classic on your computer at the same time. So you can keep using Appraise-It Classic for doing your older UAD 2.6 reports, your current UAD, and start learning Appraise-It Pro, though I do recommend moving over to Appraise-It Pro for both your current UAD needs and your future or upcoming very soon UAD 3.6 needs as well. I also have the Apex Portal on here. Apex Portal is going to be one of our mobile apps that we're going to be offering. We already offer it as an in-the-field sketching solution, but it'll also work on your desktop. It'll work on Chrome OS, Android, on iPads and iPhones. But you'll be able to, that's going to be expanded in features so that not only will it do in-the-field sketching, but it'll also do data collection and photo organization and taking as well. And the other thing I have on here is the Appendix F1. If you do one of our UAD 3.6 courses, which we have recorded, if you just go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/SFREP, or you just click on our little logo and below the video, you can then click on live and you can see one of our most recent UAD 3.6 report writing webinars. We have some more coming up, but I don't think we have any more this month. I think the next one's going to be next month, but you can watch one of the pre-recorded versions of that. So I'm going to go ahead and crank up Appraise-It Pro here. And I'm going to be going back and forth kind of telling you tips and tricks and things you need to know whether you're coming from Appraise-It Classic or if you're coming over from another software vendor. Now, we wrote Appraise-It Pro in the Microsoft development environment. It's the same development environment that's basically used for doing Microsoft Office. And that's why Appraise-It Pro will look very similar to Microsoft Office. We got somebody from Baton Rouge coming in too, which is where we're based out of. But it is it's going to look a lot like and work a lot like Microsoft Office does. So when you first start up the program, you're going to be in an area called the backstage. And the backstage, it's a theater metaphor, I guess the people at Microsoft were, reformed theater geeks. But what it basically means is this is going to be, behind the scenes. And this area, I like to kind of explain it as like it's a super file menu. So the stuff that is in here in the backstage when you first open up Appraise-It Pro is very similar to what you would find in the file menu of Appraise-It Classic or of whatever software you're coming over from. And in order to get to the editing area of Appraise-It Pro, you're just going to click on this little arrow here. Now, I don't have a report open right now, so this area is just simply blank. To get back to the backstage area, I actually click on the little file menu option here, which is kind of separated out from the others by having it be a black background with white text. And you'll see when I click on that, it comes back here. So that's why I kind of like to explain it as a super file menu. Now there are a couple of sections here. There's going to be welcome, new, open, search, settings. There's going to be a couple of other items here that are grayed out. That's because I don't have an active report open right now. And then there's new window and exit. So let's deal with these first. New window, it's going to kind of do what you think it's going to do. You can open up multiple instances of Appraise-It Pro. Long Island, New York, chiming in. That's good to see. Love New York. Love Long Island, actually. But if you click on new window, it's going to open up a new instance of Appraise-It Pro. So you can have maybe 3 instances of Appraise-It Pro open, and you could have 3 different reports open that you could reference back and forth. If you have multiple monitors, you could be working on 2 different reports at the same time. I'm a big believer in having multiple monitors. I have 2, but I know that there are a lot of you out there that have 3 and 4. Maybe one of them is portrait orientation. So Appraise-It Pro will accommodate that very nicely. And I'll even show you how well Appraise-It Pro can do on a portrait monitor if you have that set up in your office. And then, of course, exit. Exit's going to exit the program. It's going to do the same thing as clicking the red X in the upper right-hand corner. So we're going to start with the welcome section here. And this is what is shown when you first start the program. And what this is just a way for us to communicate with you without having to send you an email, without having to call you or anything like that. We update it periodically, not a ton. The last time it was updated, it was on the 8th of January. And that's just letting you know that we have a survey out for people. We also emailed you on this, but we have a survey out for people to fill out and basically opt in and say, hey, I am U83.6 ready. And then we will share your information with lenders and GSEs in an attempt to get you some more work. The quicker that you are ready to do U83.6, I think the more work you're going to start seeing, because we're now getting into that time frame where lenders and AMCs are wanting to start issuing U83.6 reports so they can work out all the bugs in their systems and make sure everything is working properly. So they're going to be, and they have been contacting us wanting to know who is ready to do U83.6. We also have stuff on there about, there's the Instaplan integration. We posted that just before Christmas. It is one of our new mobile apps that we're offering. It does LiDAR scanning, automatic sketching. It's a really slick program. You can check that out as well. Next, we have new. This is where you're going to start most of your appraisal reports. Now, some of you in Appraise-It Classic or with the previous software that you had, you may have cloned, and you can clone in Appraise-It Pro. And by cloning, what I mean is you're opening up an old report with the express purpose of starting to edit that to create a new report. The only problem with cloning is you need to make sure that you save it as a new file right away so that it doesn't start overwriting whatever that previous file was, okay? But what we envision you doing is actually using templates. And templates, what a template in Appraise-It Pro is, if you're moving over from Classic, you can think of a template as analogous to a skeleton in Appraise-It Classic. If you are moving over from another software vendor, you'll understand what a template is. But in Appraise-It Pro, a template is basically a regular report file that you have promoted to template status. And in fact, the way you create a template is you just open up a blank report, make changes to it, add some stuff to it, fill it out, and then you save it as a template, and boom, it is now been promoted to template status, and it's essentially a starting place for you. Now you'll notice here that I have UAD 3.6 section here, and I also have the UAD 2.6. Now what we're going to be doing in this webinar is teaching you how to fill out a UAD 2.6 report, because that's what you're mostly doing right now. We will show you the UAD 3.6 interface at the end, but what you basically need to know is the way that we've implemented UAD 3.6 is it's very, very similar to how you fill out UAD 2.6 reports. So in showing you how UAD 2.6 reports work, you will basically be primed and ready to go to fill out a UAD 3.6 report. So if I select the URAR, the 1004 here, you'll see that I already have some templates in place here. Now, if I simply just double click here, it's just going to open up a blank report. And because I have this down here at the lower right-hand corner checked, include suggested forms in the default template, it is going to open up a couple of suggested addenda for me. So it's going to have contained in the report already from the get-go. It's going to have my sketching pages, some photo pages, some map pages, all that stuff kind of already added in. It's the default template. But if I've created and saved some templates, they'll be over here on the right-hand side. And I can simply double-click here if I wanted to open up a template for Charlotte, or more than likely a template for a specific lender, or a template for a zip code, or a template for a street, or however you want to do a template. It's up to you on how you do that. All right. Somebody coming in from Maine. Well, you're on the coast of Maine, so it's probably not as terrible as interior Maine is, but that's got to be pretty cold. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to double click here to open up a blank 1004. Takes just a second here. And here we go. This is the interface for Appraise-It Pro. Now, whether you're moving over from Appraise-It Classic or you're moving over from another software vendor, this is going to look quite familiar to you. And that's because Appraise-It Pro for both UAD 2.6 and UAD 3.6 is what you see is what you get editing, or WYSIWYG editing. And what that means is you are essentially filling out a graphical representation of the printed form. In other words, this is roughly what the form is going to look like or the report's going to look like when you actually print it out. Now, when you print it out, it won't have these colors in here. These colors are for your benefit. And over here on the right, you can see a color key. I'll go over what this means and how it works in a few minutes. But basically, you're just typing directly into the form, kind of like a typewriter would be, but you're doing it digitally. And this is the way you've been filling out reports for decades. Probably most of you, it's the way you've been filling it out for your entire career. Some of you have been doing this for a very long time and may have actually filled out reports using a typewriter. Same concept. Now in Appraise-It Pro, there are 4 panels that you need to worry about and that you'll see. First panel is the report panel. We'll go over these in depth here in just a minute. But the report panel is essentially your table of contents. There's the validator. The validator is doing 2 types of checks on you as you write the report. There is real-time validation happening. I'll show you how that works here in a couple of minutes, but there's also a comprehensive validation that you can run when you get towards the end of your report. We have responses. These are your common responses like you had from Appraise-It Classic, except we don't have that F key bar at the top anymore. It's just a responses panel, but the F keys are still there, and I'll show you how that works in a couple of minutes. And then we have the format panel. For those of you moving over from Appraise-It Classic, this is basically the UAD helper panel that was in Appraise-It Classic. When you are not in a UAD field, it is just showing you a color key. Okay, so formatted fields are green. The active field, which is this field right here, is gray colored. And then image fields are purple. The active checkbox group is orange, et cetera, et cetera. And you also have these extended comment fields. So any of these that are darker blue, they do have an extended comment field. So same concept that you probably had in your old software or in Appraise-It Classic. As you keep typing in here, eventually it's going to trip over and you're going to be thrown into an extended comment addendum. And then that's all going to be kind of organized together when you create the report at the very end into a whole addendum that the user can flip back and forth to. The great thing is in Appraise-It, in UAD 3.6, that doesn't exist. That is not a thing. Extended comment addendum, not a thing in UAD 3.6, which is really nice. So let's start with the report panel. So those of you who are moving over from Appraise-It Classic, listen up, Pay attention to this part of the webinar. If you zone out on the whole rest of it, this is the part that you really need to understand. Because this is the biggest difference between Appraise-It Classic and Appraise-It Pro. And when you figure this out, when it clicks in your head, it will make everything so much easier for you, okay? So in Appraise-It Classic, and for those of you moving over from a la mode or ACI or whoever, bear with me for just a minute on this. When you were in Appraise-It Classic, you would create the report at the end. So you'd fill out, you'd select from the contents menu what you needed to fill out, the addenda and everything that you would need to fill out. And then you would quote unquote print it or create the MISMO XML, order the thing, put it all in the correct order at the end of the report. In Appraise-It Pro, you're going to do that at the beginning and as you go through the report, as you write the report, okay? So everything that you're going to need is going to already be in here or you're going to add it. And you don't want to add anything to the report that you're not going to need. And in fact, you're going to want to remove things that you know you're not going to use because you want to keep everything in here nice and tidy. So, for instance, if you are not going to be using a flood map in this particular report, you need to remove it. The reason for that is that you want this list right here to reflect what's in the report and in what order that it's in the report. Okay? So if I'm not going to be using the flood map, I want to get rid of it because if I come back to this report 3 weeks from now, I want to be able to look at this and instantly know what I delivered to the lender and what was contained in the report. So if I'm not going to use the flood map, I'm going to highlight it by single clicking on it. I'm going to click on remove. I'm going to say yes, and it's gone. Now, what if I want to put that flood map back in or some other addendum? Well, I'm going to come up here to the add button right here, the little green plus, and it's going to bring up the add remove forms dialog. Now it can be add remove forms. Right now it's under addenda, but I could select primary as well. If I select primary, which I'll do right now, I can actually change the type of report that this is. So right now it's a 1004, but if I come over here and I double click on condominium, then it will change this report into a condominium. It will replace the primary form type, the 1004, with a 1073. So that's an easy way that I can, like let's say you start doing a report on a townhome, but then you find out that it needs to be done as a condo. All you have to do, even if you're halfway through the report, just come in here, double click on condominium. So you're going to come over here to the form type. You're going to select primary instead of addenda. You're going to double click on 1073. It will put the 1073 in there and transfer all of the data into it. So you can basically change the report into a 1073. But for the most part, you're going to be adding addenda from here. So if I want to put the flood map in here, now you can see it's already under frequently used, but if we pretend like it's not, I can just come up here to the search, type in flood, and it's going to show me all references to flood, which is going to be flood map under frequently used, flood map under maps. It can show up in multiple locations, the same form. And it's going to be under FEMA because there is a standard flood hazard determination form, so that's showing up because it has the word flood in the form name. But this is what we want. Now to add it to the report, I can do one of two things. Over here on the right-hand side, you'll see this is the report panel. This is just duplicating what's over here, but this is the kind of the working panel. So I can make changes to it and then they will be transferred over here. All right. So if I double click flood map, it's just going to put the flood map down there at the bottom, but I don't want that. So I'm going to remove it using the little arrow here. I want to put flood map after location map where it was. So I can click and I can drag it over here and have it be after location map. Now it's not there yet. See, it's in the kind of temporary holding pool over here, but it hasn't been added over here yet. So as soon as I click on save and close, it gets put over here underneath location map. In the same way that I did that, I can also move things around and I can make a custom order of all of these addendums, or addenda. So I can take flood. Let's say actually if I want location map to be at the very front, if I want that to be the first thing when you open up the report, I can click and drag it all the way up here to the top. So I can reorder things by just clicking and dragging them. And you'll want to do that before you create the final print or create the final MISMO XML of the report so that this will always reflect what is in the actual report itself. So if you come back 3 weeks later, you're going to know what's in there. Now you may have noticed that there's some icons over here on the left-hand side. The star icon, that is your primary report type, your primary form. The padlock icon means that those particular addenda are necessary for the proper operation of the report. So you can't remove them. They need to stay in the report itself. So these will always be here. You don't have to send them along with your report, but they have to be in there for the report to work properly. And then some of them don't have anything, but then you'll see a lot of them have these little green pluses. Well, that's the same one that's up here under add. So you can probably infer what's going on here. If I click on this little plus right here for sales comps, right now I have comps 1 through 3 and 4 through 6 in the report. Of course, 1 through 3 is in the main body of the report. 4 through 6 is an addendum. If I click on a plus, it's now going to add comps 7 through 9, and it's going to put the photos for comps 7 through 9 here as well. Some of you who are moving over from another software vendor may be like, hey, do you have side-by-side comps? In UAD 2.6, no, we don't, not right yet. We do have it in UAD 3.6, and we are going to backport it to UAD 2.6 soon. But for right now, we don't have side-by-side comps. So the way this will work is if I want to look at comps 4 through 6, I just simply double-click on it. Notice I have a tabbed interface up here at the top. So this is where I was, and it just is now displaying this tab, kind of like how a web browser works. I can open up my sketch, etc. If I don't want to see anything anymore, I just click on the X to close it. It's not removing it from the report. I'm just not viewing it any longer. So here are the comp 4 through 6 photos. And then if I come over here to sales comps 4 through 6, there's the comp grid for 4 through 6. You can add as many comp pages as you wish. There is no restriction on how many you can put in there like there is in Appraise-It Classic. And also, you'll notice that when I added comp 7 through 9, it also added sales comp photos 7 through 9 as well. All right, any questions on how this panel works? One more thing I do want to show you is that you can rename these. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them can be renamed. So for instance, subject photos, exterior 3x5, or let's say general, here's an even better one, general photos, 6 per page legal, 3x5 aspect ratio. If I double click on that, that's what this looks like. Remember, purple, image fields. So I can just simply double click here if I want to browse in an image, okay? I can also use the comp manager or the image manager, which is under tools, but we go over that more in depth in our second version of this, or the part 2 of this webinar, another hour webinar that we do on getting a little bit deeper with Appraise-It Pro. But it works the same way as Appraise-It Classic for those of you who are coming over from Appraise-It Classic. But let's say that on that 6 per page photo addendum, that those are some garage photos, because maybe it has a really cool garage that has like a lift in it. It's like a 3-car garage. They've got a whole workshop in there. So you want to show some cool photos of it. So I can add those photos. And now what I can do is I can single click on the actual addendum, click on rename, and now I can call it whatever I want. I want to do garage photos. And then I'm just going to say 6/legal so that I know which one it is. Hit OK. And now it says garage photos 6/legal. This can be very helpful if you come back to this report 3 weeks from now. Always doing that whole 3 weeks thing. You're coming back to the report 3 weeks from now and you want to know what was in the report. You now can see what was in the report without having to actually go through each of these photo pages and see what was in them. You can just at a glance know that it's garage photos, although looks like I mistyped that. So I can come back up here, rename, there we go, photos. I have a microphone in front of my face, so typing is not the easiest thing in the world right now. And by the way, with these panels, you can adjust them. So if I want to see more of the report panel, I can, or I can drag this up here. So these are adjustable. You can even actually pull these out. So if I want, I can click and drag it out, and I can put it on a different monitor. But invariably, what you're going to do is, hey, I want to put it back in there. You're going to do something like this, and you're going to panic and be like, uh-oh, what did I do? Don't worry. If anytime something weird like this happens, don't panic. All you got to do is come to the View menu, select Reset the Default, say yes. It'll put everything back the way it was. So don't worry about that. All right. Any questions on the report panel? Hopefully that's clear to everybody and I'm making sense. Sometimes I have a little bit of a tendency to ramble. Hopefully I'm not doing it too much. We're going to move on now to the validator. Validator, the rest of these panels are really simple to go over, so it's not going to take too much longer. For the validator, two types of validation are happening: real-time and comprehensive. Let's take a look at real-time first. The easiest way for me to show you how real-time validation works, and real-time validation is going to be checking your math. It's going to be checking your formatting, things like that. So if you're like, free-form typing into a UAD locked field, if you get the formatting wrong and you leave the field, it's going to turn it red. So I'm going to show you how that works. If I come here to the state field and I type in NC and I type out of it, or I tab out of it, or click out of it, it's fine. It has no problems with what I put in there. Now, if I come in here and I put BC, now it turns red. BC is a Canadian province. It is not a US state, so it's going to turn it red. And if I happen to be elsewhere in the report and I notice over here that there's a red hard stop, I can single click on that, and down here it will tell me what I did wrong. State must be a valid 2-character US state abbreviation, example NC. All right, well, I want to change that. So what I can do is simply double click on this. It's going to jump me back to the state field. I'm like, oh, duh, I have fat fingers. I put the wrong thing in there. Change it back to be NC, tab out, and now it's happy, and my hard stop is gone. This also works for PR for Puerto Rico. We have customers in Puerto Rico. GU for Guam, VI for the U.S. Virgin Islands. All of those work. So it does all U.S. states and territories. And anytime I make some type of goof in my formatting and I tab out, well, in this case, it's not going to be doing it here for a very specific reason I'll go over later. But if you make any type of formatting mistakes, it will give you a hard stop and let you know what you did wrong. All right. The second type of validation that goes on is the comprehensive validation. Now, I'm not going to do a comprehensive validation. I'll get you your questions here in just a minute, guys. I'm not going to do a comprehensive validation right now because the whole thing's going to freak out and turn red because I don't have anything in the report. But when you get to the end or near the end of the report, you can click on this validate button. It will run a comprehensive validation and it'll let you know any mistakes, math mistakes, spelling mistakes, things like that went wrong, and you can double click on them just like you did what I did with state, and it'll jump you to it and you can make your correction there. One last thing on the validator panel, there are two different rule sets for UAD 2.6. There's UCDP and FHA. Most of your stuff's going to be UCDP. If you're doing an FHA, you want to select FHA so that it's going to be validating on the correct rule set. The FHA rule set and the UCDP rule set are very, very similar to each other, but there are a couple of small little differences. I don't remember what they are off the top of my head, but it will remember whatever you had set as the rule set from one time to another. So just make sure that before you start a report that you have the correct rule set for your particular report selected in this little pull-down menu. So you may want to put that on your little checklist of things that you're going to do before you start a new report. All right, let's look at some questions here. Cash Appraiser says, just to be clear, there is no template for transmitting the report like in Classic. You're talking about print schemes. If I understand correctly, you have to manually construct each transmission. No. Because of the way the templates work and because of the way that you build a report, you don't need, quote unquote, what were called print schemes in Appraise-It Classic. You don't need those in Appraise-It Pro, because you're going to build this report in the way that you want it to be delivered. So you're going to both order it in the way that it needs to be delivered, and you're only going to have things in here that are actually filled out, so that when you come over here to orders and you click on create MISMO XML, you should not have to make any changes here, except to maybe say, hey, I don't want to include the report profile. I don't want to include the comps adjustments. Those are going to be unchecked by default. And while you can change the order in this screen right here, I don't recommend doing that because any changes you make here are not going to translate back over to the report panel. So you want to make the changes here so that this will always be representative of what you sent to the lender. Okay. So yeah, you do not need print schemes any longer, because what was the purpose of the print schemes no longer really exists, because you're going to be setting the order and what is being delivered over here in the report panel. Hopefully that makes sense. Lacey says, on the report toolbar, how would you save a whole template? So once you have gone through the report, made the necessary changes that you want to save as a template, whether it be some boilerplate text that you put in there or some images. I know in North Carolina and Missouri, I think are the only two states that you're required to put an image of your seal. So that would go right here. So you can come in here, add your seal. You can fill out some other data real quick. And then if you want to save that as a template, you'll come over to Home, Save As, and you'll save as template instead of save as report. You give the template a name, and then when you have saved it, it'll be listed in there over here in the file menu. When you select that particular report, you'll see it there. All right, cool. Any other questions? Let me know. Responses. We're going to get quicker and quicker here. Responses are very simple. The responses I have set up right now are in the city field. So if I come into the city field, now I've got some responses here. The way these work, very, very similar to the way it worked in Appraise-It Classic. So there's no F key bar up here at the top, but if I want to use one of these responses in a given field, all I got to do is come over here and double click. Or if I've assigned it to an F key, I can hit F6, it's going to fill in Concord. If I hit F4, it's going to fill in Charlotte. These are all suburbs of Charlotte. Or I can just start typing CH and it's going to autofill, kind of like a web browser. It's going to autofill Charlotte for me, and then I can just tab out of it. So you can see that if you get a lot of these responses set up, and remember, you can do a response even in a multi-line field. You could have a response that's 4 paragraphs long. So as I start moving through here, I can just start typing the first few letters, hit something in there, and then tab out. Or I can assign it to an F key. I can just hit an F3 key. Or if I hit F2, I can select it from a list. Once you get used to that, you can burn through a report very quickly. You don't even have to touch the mouse. You can just keep burning through the report very quickly, especially because Appraise-It Pro, like Appraise-It Classic, allows you to type directly into UAD fields, because we've been doing these UAD reports forever, for over a decade now. So you probably already know what the formatting is. So you can just type directly into this field. And if you get the formatting right, great. But if you need help, there's the format panel, and we'll go over that here in just a second. Now, how do we create a new response? So we're going to do one called UAD Town. All right. Now, if I want to add that as a response, I come up here to Manage Responses. And if you're a Appraise-It Classic user, this is going to look very familiar to you. It's going to work exactly the same way. Here is what is contained in that particular response. I can assign it an F key if I wish. I'm not going to right now, but I could if I want to. And I could give it a title. Now, a title is optional because the title really only applies if it's a multi-paragraph response or a multi-line response. This is a 1 or 2 word response, so it can be its own title. So I don't need to give it a title. But obviously, if I had like 3 paragraphs in here in one of these multi-line fields, then I'm going to want to give it a title to kind of sum it up so I know which one it is. All right, so I'm not going to assign it to an F key. This is the information. I'm going to say save. I'm going to say close, and there it is. If I want to get rid of it, single click, delete response, say yes, it's gone. Real simple. By the way, there is a hidden 5th panel here, and it's called Help. This is not going to be useful to most of you, but if you have any trainees or new appraisers working for you, the help can be very helpful for them. See it there? It can be very helpful for them. Each one of these fields has a little bit of text written about, or sometimes a lot of text, written about what needs to go in that particular field. This will also be available in UAD 3.6, but we haven't finished writing all that stuff up yet. But it is available in UAD 2.6. So if you have a new office worker or a new appraiser who's coming on board, they could find this very helpful. So it is tabbed right here with responses. Finally, the report panel, the format panel. Not much to say here. you guys have been using some semblance of this, no matter what software you've been using. If you're in Appraise-It Classic, this is your UAD helper. If you're coming from another software, this may have popped up or overlaid whenever you got to a UAD field. We just decided to put it over here on the right-hand side to keep it out of your way. The way this works is when I'm in a non-UAD field, so a non-green field, it's just showing me a color key. Whenever I go into a green field, whenever I go into a UAD formatted field, it becomes a UAD helper. Like I said, if you know the formatting, feel free to type it in there. If you get it wrong, we'll turn the field red. But otherwise, you can freeform type in here if you wish. But if you need some help, you can come over here and just use this to, let's say, beneficial water view, hit apply, and boom, it's going to properly format it for you. You don't even have to hit apply. You could just tab out of the field or click out of the field if you want. Real simple. That's how the format field works. Not rocket science. A couple of more questions came in, or one more question came in from Scotty. How about importing report data from Classic into Pro? Got two options here, Scotty. Pro can open up either a Appraise-It Classic report file or a Mismo XML file as if it was a regular report file. So you can just come into Open and you can open up the report, but also remember that when you install Appraise-It Pro, it's going to spend the better part of 24 hours indexing all of your old UAD or all of your old Appraise-It Classic reports, and it's going to build what was called a file index in Appraise-It Classic, but we just call the search index in Appraise-It Pro, so that you'll be able to actually search for your old Appraise-It Classic reports. If you're moving over from another software, you can index all of your old Mismo XML files so that you can search for them and then open them up as well. So that's the first way that you can get that information in there. But you can also do a import. So in order to show you this, I'm also going to show you how report searching works. It works very similar to the way it did in Appraise-It Classic. It's an exclusionary search, meaning that the more information you type in here, the more targeted your search results are going to be. So if I came in here and I just did a search, and once again, so you know where we are, here's editing. We're going to go to File, come down to Search. All right. So I'm going to type in Charlotte, and you'll see that it auto-completed that for me too. Well, if I do a search on Charlotte and I'm an appraiser in the Charlotte metro area, I'm going to pull up hundreds, if not thousands of reports, especially if I'm bringing all my stuff over from Appraise-It Classic. So I want to narrow that down a little bit, and doing North Carolina ain't going to cut it because obviously, all the ones in Charlotte are going to be in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, if you are licensed only in one state, you can probably just go ahead and delete the state field because you're not going to be searching in a different state. So you can just click on the little trash can icon and just say yes there. All right, so Charlotte. Now, if I type in the county, once again, all the reports from Charlotte are going to be in Mecklenburg County, so that's not going to do me any good. But what I can do is I can come up here to the street address, and I can put maybe a partial street address in there. And I'm going to do PAI. There's Painted Tree Road. I've done one on Painted Tree Road. So I want to narrow it down, and I only want to see all the reports that I've ever done in Charlotte on Painted Tree Road. I'm going to click on search. That's going to come up with one report, and that's it. And now that I have it pulled up, I could double click here to open up that report, or I can single click on it, and then I can right click and say import forms or import comparables, or I can come down here and I can click on import form or import comps. So if I click on this, it gives me all of the different forms and addenda that I can import from that particular report, whether it is a classic report or it's a Appraise-It Pro report. I can do it the same way. And I can say deselect all, and maybe I only want to get the site plan and the sketch. Then I can click on import, and it'll only bring that into this particular report. Let's see. Dcash says, is there any way you could increase the size of your cursor? It's very hard to follow. Unfortunately, no, I can't. Sorry. You may want to go ahead and make the video to be full screen. Maybe it'll make it a little bit easier. But with this software that I'm using for streaming, it doesn't allow that. It does allow me to when I'm like doing screen recordings, but I can't when I'm doing the swap. What I'll probably do is next time I do one of these, I can change my cursor to be black. It might make it a little bit easier for you guys to see, but I can't do that right now, unfortunately, because it'll crash the software if I try to make a change like that. Okay, let's go back over to the report. Let's see here. Sorry, I was getting a phone call on my business line and it was making stuff go away. Once again, any more questions you guys have, go ahead and throw them in there. If you're watching this webinar after the fact, feel free to email your questions to me, because we do archive all of these reports, and you can go to our YouTube page, youtube.com/SFREP, and you can watch previously done recordings of these webinars. Just click on live when you go to our YouTube page. And if you have any questions after that, you can email training@sfrep.com. We would be happy to answer any questions you might have. You can also use that if you're a little bit shy right now and you don't want to do it in the chat. Training@sfrep.com. I'm also going to give you my direct office number. I ask that you don't call because I'm usually busy and I won't answer phone calls, and it'll send you to my voicemail, and it's going to be a lot longer before I can get back to you if you leave a voicemail or if you call. But you can text me at my office number. We have a fancy voice over IP system that we use because we all work from home. This is my home office. You can actually text me at that number and it will go through to my iPhone, and I can reply to you even after hours or on the weekends, okay? So get a pen and paper ready. I'm going to give you my actual telephone number. And as a matter of fact, what we'll do is I'll type it here on the screen for you, okay? It is going to be 828-919-9082. That is 828-919-9082. As a matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the chat too, okay? So 828-919-9082. That is my direct office number. You are welcome to text me at that number, and I will answer any questions that you may have that may come up while when you're trying out Appraise-It Pro, etc. Now there's a couple more things I want to show you. One of which is down here in the lower right-hand corner. So hopefully you can see that, Cash. This is what is our server status. Okay, so all of our services are out of a data center down in Dallas, Texas, and we use this data center because it is very, very reliable. The internet never goes down. They have redundancy built in, so it's rare that our services will just go down. But it does happen occasionally if the server encounters an error or somebody does something weird, and it's running on a Windows server. Sometimes they can foul up, so we might have to reset it. If that happens, this will change from being green to either yellow or red. Yellow meaning degraded service, red meaning it's down. And you'll be able to click on this to see what the issue is. We'll put a little text box here. And then if you click on that, it's going to open up this web page, which you can go to anytime, status.sfrep.com, and it will show you if there's anything down, which there isn't, and it'll show you some past events. We don't have any past events recently, so everything is nice and clear. We haven't had any problems in quite a long time. The other thing I do want to show you guys is going to be our website. I want you to go to sfrep.com at some point. You click on training. You can either mouse over it or you can click on it, but if you just mouse over it, come down here to training calendar, and you can see all of the webinars that we have coming up. Our next webinar is going to be on buying new technology at 2 p.m. Eastern time next Tuesday. And then we're going to have another one on Thursday, the 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And that's going to be using in the Instaplan mobile app. We're going to be kind of doing that with the folks at McKenna. But the other thing you're going to want over here under training is going to be request training. So you can do one of two things. You can either email training@sfrep.com, or you can put a request training form, fill this out on our website. Because we now have a full-time trainer. Her name's Lindsay. You may have dealt with her before in tech support. She now does training. Sometimes I do them as well if she gets a little bit overloaded, but she's our dedicated trainer, and you can set up a 1-hour training session with her. It's included with the Appraise-It subscription plan or with your demo. She will show you either how to use Appraise-It Pro one-on-one, or she can show you how the UAD 3.6 works one-on-one as well. In addition to that, if you go to youtube.com/SFREP, this is our YouTube page, and you click on, look at that. If you click on live, you can see both the upcoming webinars. Here's the one we're doing right now. You can see it's live. And you can see back ones. And one we did 10 days ago, writing a UAD 3.6 report in Appraise-It Pro. You can go back and you can watch that. It's about 1 hour long, and you can watch it at your leisure. All right. Finally, a couple of things that I do want to show you. I've shown you how you can create a template. Securing your report. This trips up some people who are coming over from Appraise-It Classic. In Appraise-It Classic, when you signed a report, the report could not be edited anymore. Now, I say that. It was easy to get around that and modify a report if you knew what you were doing. So it wasn't necessarily secure. It was just kind of not letting you edit that particular report, but it was easy to get around that. So what we have now is when you secure the report using this little padlock icon here, it actually 256-bit ASE encrypts the report. So military grade encryption, so that you can feel good about emailing it back and forth with colleagues. It is completely encrypted. When you click on this, you're going to be able to give it a password, and you can either require a password to edit the report, require a password to open the report, or you can do both. And just make sure that when you put a password in here, make sure it's a decent password with upper and lower case, maybe with numbers, maybe with some punctuation in it. And then if you email a report to somebody and it's password protected, don't put the password for that particular email, or don't put the password for the report in the email. Send it either as a secondary email, second email in a separate email, or even better, text it to them or call them and give it to them. So that way you're using a different channel, communications channel, to give them the password. Okay? But keep in mind that if you sign a report in Appraise-It Pro, it can still be edited. All you're doing when you sign a report in Appraise-It Pro is you're just adding an image of your signature to the report. So keep that in mind. If you want to secure that report, you need to click on here, and it is real security, not just, oh, you can't edit it, but you can go in under the hood and do it. So I'm not going to tell you how you can do it, but if you know what you're doing, you can do it. You cannot do it with Appraise-It Pro. Under the support tab, here is where you can change your company information. This is our tech support area, so you can view our knowledge base. So if I click on Common and Global Responses in Appraise-It Pro, it's going to open up a web page here that gives me a video, and it's going to give me text information about how all of this stuff works. So definitely, if you are new to Appraise-It Pro, this can be your best friend. You can also do chat support. So if I click on that, it can bring up the chat support. You guys have probably used this before. If you're with Appraise-It Classic, it's the same thing. And then over here is going to be all of our socials and our blog. As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to update the blog probably today or Monday. But you can access our X account, our Blue Sky account, YouTube, Facebook, our blog, and our website from here as well. Okay, I think that is kind of the primer. Oh, under orders, you can create Mismo XML. This is going to work just like it did in Appraise-It Classic. If you're moving over from Appraise-It from another software vendor, this is where you're going to come under orders when you're ready to deliver your report. And this is going to spit out the Mismo XML. You also have the ENV. Everyone is able to do the ENV format. We don't charge extra for it, like I know Bradford and ACI and Alamo do. And there's also, we integrate with Total Connect as well. Now, real quickly, UAD 3.6. Let me close out of this UAD 2.6 report. Now we have, like I said, we have a whole video on filling out a UAD 3.6 report, but I do want to show you that when you open up a URAR, a dynamic UAD 3.6 URAR, it pretty much looks the same. That's why I say when you learn how to fill out a UAD 2.6 report in Appraise-It Pro, moving over and starting a UAD 3.6 report is going to be easy peasy. It's not going to be hard. everything is pretty much the same. You've got your report panel, you got your validator panel, you got your responses panel. If I come over here to the subject property and I go in the city field, boom, my responses from UAD 2.6 are already in there. Now, if you try to import data from a UAD 2.6 report into a UAD 3.6 report, some stuff will come over, but you're not going to be very happy because there's only about a 6% overlap between UAD 2.6 and UAD 3.6. So some address information is going to come over, a couple other things, but that's going to be it. But you can import UAD 3.6 reports into UAD 3.6 reports. So keep that in mind. The other big difference is that this report panel, you cannot reorder these. You can't reorder the sections of the report like you can in UAD 2.6. That is because the GSEs want every UAD 3.6 report to be in the exact same order, no matter what software it was done in, and no matter who did the report. So just keep that in mind, that you can jump around and fill it out in whatever order that you want, but this has to stay in the same order. So that's all I'm going to really go over for UAD 3.6. Like I said, we have a whole hour webinar that we do on that. Let's take a look at some questions here. I got one more that just came in. Can I ask questions about UAD 3.6 on this, or should I schedule another training class? Gabrielle? I think it's Gabrielle. If it's Gabriel, I'm sorry. What I would say is I'm going to stay in the chat a little bit after this webinar, so you can go ahead and ask some questions. You can also, remember, use my telephone number, my office number, which is just above your chat, 828-919-9082. Feel free to text it to me, but I'll stay in the chat here a little bit after we conclude the webinar, and I can answer some questions for you. But remember, you can go to our YouTube page. So if you go to regular YouTube and you do a search for SFREP, that'll take you to there's our page right there. And click on live, and you'll see right here, writing a UAD 3.6 report in Appraise-It Pro. This is a 1-hour webinar, and you'll be able to watch that, and it'll probably answer a lot of your questions. But absolutely, feel free to stay after this, and I'll answer any questions that you or anybody else has. All right? Okay, I think that's everything. I don't see any more questions, but for those of you who are live, if you have any other questions, I'm going to stay a little bit after, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have in the chat. Be happy to do that. Remember, you can also send an email, training@sfrep.com, or you can text me directly, 828-919-9082. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend coming up. I know that TGIF, I am so ready for the weekend. So I hope all of you have a wonderful weekend. Don't work too much over the weekend. And we will see you in our next webinar, which I believe is going to be on Tuesday of next week. We're going to go over buying new technology. It's one of my favorite webinars. So if you are in the market for a new computer, or if you're in the market for a tablet, or you want to know what tablet you should get for doing UAD 3.6 in the field, that is going to be the webinar for you. It's going to be on Tuesday. Just go to training.sfrep.com, and you can click on the training calendar and see all of our upcoming webinars. Of course, I'll email you guys as well. Kathy has one quick question. Will you have a mobile app for Android? Yes, we will. The mobile app for Android is going to be made by Apex. So Apex Portal, which is this right here, is currently available for just doing like in the field sketching right now. So that's the hardest part. Whoops. That's the hardest part of any, whoops, did I close the wrong? There we go. That is the hardest part of any mobile app, is doing the sketching part. They've already finished that. And so you can use that right now. The data collection and the photo aspect of it is coming in the next month or so. Now, we already have a mobile app for UAD 2.6 for, well, we actually technically have 2 mobile apps for UAD 2.6. We have Instaplan, which does the LiDAR sketching using the Apple iPhone Pro, Pro Max, and then the iPad Pros, because they have the LiDAR sensor on them. Unfortunately, Android doesn't do LiDAR sensors, so there's no Android version. But the Apex Portal will be the other mobile app that will be cheaper, and it will basically work on any device. It literally will work on any device. It'll work on Android phones, Android tablets, iPads, iPhones. It'll work on Chromebooks, and it will work on Windows. And the cool thing about the Apex app is going to be that with Apex Portal, you can see right here, I'm running it on an actual Windows desktop here. So I'll be able to open up my sketch that I did in the field and make some changes to it, or I can use this as my sketching program and then transfer the sketches into Appraise-It Pro. So this will actually be kind of a replacement for Sketch-It, our built-in sketching, plus this will work in the field as well, and it's cheaper than the full version of Apex. So it's like Apex Lite, and it works on mobile apps as well. So you'll be able to use it on your Windows device, plus you'll be able to use it on your Android device as well. All right. Like I said, guys, I'm going to stay in the chat for a little bit longer to answer any questions you guys have. But remember, you can text me directly. By the way, is that not perfection? Look at that plane. That's just beautiful. I'm a big aviation nut. I took that photo actually a couple days ago here in Charlotte. Anyway, I'm a photographer as well. I'm going to stay in the chat a little bit longer. I'll answer any questions you guys have. Remember, you can also text me 828-919-9082 or training@sfrep.com. You guys have an awesome weekend. Don't work too hard and enjoy it. And if you're anywhere in the U.S., it's probably going to be pretty cold. So stay inside, I guess, or bundle up when you go outside. Love you guys. Thank you so much. If it wasn't for you guys, I would not have a house and I would not have food on the table. So thank you so much for your patronage of SFREP. We love our customers. If there's anything we can do for you, please do not hesitate to give us a call. I know all of you or most of you know the number, but I'm going to put the number up on the screen anyway. It's going to be 800-644-4051. And of course, remember, you can email or text support directly, tech@sfrep.com. Thank you guys so much. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a weekend. Bye-bye.